Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Information Advice from our current students and recent graduates. This is Rena Lichtenfeld, Assistant Dean of Enrollment Management here at Peabody. We are very excited to have a panel of our current students and recent grads with us today. Thank you in advance to all of them. I know that there's at least one person who I'm not sure is on yet, but I know we'll have to leave early or will join us when she can. And we also have a special guest with us too, who will introduce herself after everyone else who is on the slide will go. But today, the purpose of today's webinar is really, I would put it in the category of a casual conversation, so that you can ask any questions that you have of our current students and recent grads as you're looking to transition here in, oh my gosh, just about a month if you're not already here. But I know that there's probably some things you're anticipating, maybe more logistical kinds of questions, maybe more about Nashville, some things that are popping up last minute. We are prepared to answer questions today, really from a student perspective. If you think there's something that's a little bit more on the technical, administrative side, I would probably ask that you reserve those in an email to sorry. What is our email? I just totally blanked on our email address. It's right there, peabody.admissions@vanderbilt.edu. Thank goodness it's there. But so again, it's really kind of a casual, like, what do you think someone else would be interested or concerned about in their transition here? And if you haven't already registered for orientation, please do so. We are really now in the throes of heavy planning. We're putting together menus, we're putting together packets and name tags and everything like that. So as you can imagine, the more accurate information we have, the better. So I think we're going to launch right into it. And I'm going to go in order on our slide deck here, starting with Miss Abby, if you wouldn't mind taking the floor. Brian, is she already audio enabled?
She can unmute herself.
Okay, you can unmute yourself when it's your turn to speak.
Hey everybody, my name is Abby Onspot. I am in the Human Development Counseling program on the Clinical Mental Health Counseling track, and I will be starting my second year out of 3 this fall. I'm originally from Dayton, Ohio, but I'm also a proud Vandy undergrad alum, so I've lived here in Nashville for about 5 years now. And I know a lot of you guys have questions about assistantships and jobs, other forms of employment. So currently, I'm a research assistant at the Education and Brain Sciences Research Lab. But this past year, I was the graduate assistant for Peabody's Office of Student Affairs. And I found both of those jobs on the Peabody job board. There's a master's job board just specifically for Peabody master's students. And if you haven't looked at it yet, there's usually a lot of opportunities that come up on there throughout the year. But I would also really keep an eye on your email because especially in my program, at least, professors and other people in the department send job opportunities just via email as they come super often. And I would also encourage you not to write off-campus things. I think sometimes people are really, really looking for on-campus jobs, and those are wonderful and certainly can be really flexible with grad student schedules, which is awesome. But there's some really great off-campus stuff as well that can be really relevant to your career field. So just as a quick example, someone in my program is working for Tennessee Neurofeedback, and she's getting certified as a neurofeedback technician. So falls right in line with counseling. So I wouldn't be afraid to step outside of on-campus jobs as well. And then some other kind of miscellaneous advice, most about Nashville and kind of what it's like to live here in this city. I would say if you have not found housing yet, don't stress. I know that can be really overwhelming, but Vanderbilt has a really great roommate and housing matching website if you haven't checked that out yet. And there's an awesome Facebook group called Nashville Rentals. People post things on there all the time looking for tenants or roommates, oftentimes for like immediate occupancy. So I wouldn't suggest waiting to find housing until the week before you move, but like in theory, there are people who are posting things all the time. And kind of similarly with transportation, we do have a great bus system that you can use for free with your Vanderbilt card. So if you don't have a car and that's a concern, you can do that. I would say if you are planning on driving and you have not already figured out where you're going to live, it's a really good idea to map the time from places that you're considering living to campus at the times that you would be driving. And you can do that either through Waze or Google Maps, the online version. Because Nashville traffic, it will vary a lot when you're planning to drive to campus. So that can be really helpful. And then a couple of things I really encourage you to do right away, kind of when you get to campus, is during orientation, you're going to sign up for a meeting with Peabody Career Services, either with Jeff Henley or Kathleen Rawl. And I would so encourage you to actually go to that meeting. They provide so much really wonderful career support. And it really helped me get thinking early on about the steps I needed to take to start preparing myself for the internship search and just different meetings that I wanted to have with professionals in the community. So I would really recommend that you use them as a resource. And also, community is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take some work, but I would really encourage you to schedule a cohort hangout or grab coffee with someone from your program. It'll really help you feel more settled and more at home here at Peabody. And just I'll end with a couple of fun things. My favorite restaurant in Nashville is Bar Taco. It's in the 12 South neighborhood and it's wonderful. And there's a great music festival called Live on the Green that is Thursdays in August and Labor Day weekend. So things to look forward to.
Thanks, Abby. That was really great. Kaylin, I see you have joined us too, and Kaylin's our special guest who might have to leave us too, but we're very anxious to hear from you, Kaylin.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Go right ahead and introduce yourself and give us your tips and tricks.
Okay. My name is Kaylin Russell. I'm from Muskogee, Oklahoma, and I'm a second-year student in the Community Development and Action Program. And so this summer I've been enjoying being on campus as a graduate assistant in the Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, and having some relaxed time to check out Nashville and to make more friends and things like that. I'm also a research assistant on the Nashville After School Zoning Alliance, and I've been able to do some qualitative research and focus groups, all in an attempt to create a tool that helps Nashville After School Zoning Alliance create a framework to better prepare youth for life after high school or what they're going to do next, such as college or the career path. And so my bachelor's is in communication, and right now my career hope is to go into the corporate field and be a diversity strategist and maybe do some journalism.
It's great. You got any advice and tips for our incoming class?
Yes. So I would say come in with an open mind. Nothing has happened this year that completely turned me upside down, but I found it to be a different kind of challenge compared to undergrad. I started my graduate program right after undergrad, and so I assumed that the campus climate and the workload would be similar, but they're different. I would say the workload is more maybe focused on a career path. Instead of studying a broad array of subjects, you go deeper. And so I had to learn to study into a different way and to put more time into not just reading my articles and assignments, but trying to understand what they were actually saying, researching new words and figuring out new concepts like neoliberalism and what does capitalism really mean. And I would suggest study things that are the most important to you and be excited about it, because that helps a lot of the working process. And don't stress about, I don't suggest procrastination by any means, but if you find yourself, it happens. If you find yourself at the last minute, know that it's okay too, and you're not the only one. and using the tools available to you. Leslie Fouch is the librarian for my department, HOD, and she's been really helpful in helping me create my literature reviews and guiding my research and even formatting my research papers in a way that looked totally different than undergrad. And also consulting with your professors outside of class to see if there's special things you can focus on. I'm particularly interested in gentrification research and also counter-narrative storytellings. So a lot of the things we study in class, I make sure to focus on what I'm interested in. And it kind of gives me a nice portfolio of research that all aligns with my future goals and interests. So that's the school part. I encourage you to come and join Pop GE. When we do social events, we're going to do a games on the lawn, no, bagels in August, and we may do games on the lawn later, but stay in touch with us through social media, and remember that everyone else is just getting started in their program like you. And so I hope you see me on campus and say hello.
Thanks so much, Kaylin. Those are really good pieces of advice you shared. Appreciate that. Miss Lori June.
Hi everyone, my name is Lori June Fernandez. I am currently finishing up the Learning Diversity and Urban Studies program here. So I'm getting ready to wrap up my degree coming August. I am originally from Pasadena, California. And let's see, for advice, I am currently a teacher assistant for the LDUS program, which is Learning Diversity and Urban Studies. And if you are interested in a teacher assistantship or becoming a teacher assistant for one of the departments or professors here on campus, the woman to contact is Anita Wager, which I'll include her email in our chat below. Also, Abby already touched upon this, the Peabody Master Student Job Board, which I actually was able to secure my research assistantship under the guidance of Dr. Jeanette Mencia Martinez through the job board. And the research assistant work that I've been focused on for the past year is the language and literacy development of culturally, linguistically, and economically diverse learners. And so this primarily focuses on Spanish and English, so bilingual students within various elementary schools here in Nashville. And so I've done the implementation of administering exams in both languages, and at this portion of the summer, I'm doing data entry for Dr. Jeanette Mencia Martinez. Again, I found that opportunity through the job board, and I'll insert that link as well. And I'll also insert the link in the chat for the research assistantship that I just described. Some other advice that I have, if you are on Instagram, to follow us at VU Peabody. That's a great way to get in touch with current students, alumni, see what is happening on campus. And as Kaylin mentioned earlier, Pop GE does also, we highlight what events that Pop GE hosts. And so that's a great way to stay connected and to also have an idea of who's already been on campus and who and what they're doing. My most favorite coffee shop in all of Nashville is Humphrey Street. And so Humphrey Street is a social enterprise of Harvest Hands Community Development. And it was born out of the desire to raise leaders within our neighborhood by creating jobs, providing mentorship opportunities, and teaching job skills that empower youth. And also when you purchase coffee or any of their craft goods, they specialize in hand soaps, and these high school students also actually roast their own coffee. 100% of the profits are reinvested into the programs and scholarships for the students for the high school students from the Napier-Sutacombe community. So their logo is drink good coffee for a change, which every ounce that you do sip and every item that you do purchase from them goes straight back into the students. And I've actually had the chance, that's where my internship has been, at Harvest Hands this past year, and I've actually met the high school students and seen them in action roasting and seen them making these soaps. And a lot of the students that are working at the coffee shop, that's exactly who you're supporting. So that's what I have. Oh, and two more things. There's also art crawls every month in different parts of the city. Kaylin and I actually were able to go to the Germantown one. I'm sure they vary, especially with weather during the winter time, but that's something you can just find on Facebook if you're into that. And there's also downtown art crawls, which I have yet to experience, but those also vary with different days of the week. And something I also experienced here with Keelan was the Frist Art Museum, which has free admission for college students on specific nights of the week. So you can just call and ask when those are. During the summer, I believe it's like Thursday and Friday from 5 to 9. And I was able to just experience the Free to Call exhibit. So that's what I have for you. Yeah, have you seen it yet, Rena?
Nope, I need to go.
I think it's still September 5th.
I know. It's on my calendar.
All right. Well, that's what I have. I'll go ahead and insert the links that I had mentioned and the email address for the teacher assistantship as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Lori June. And I think we're up to Jack.
Hello. Yes. Happy to be here. Hi, everyone. So my name is Jack Iyer. I am in the Higher Education Administration program on the enrollment management track. I'm a rising second year, so it's a 2-year program. I am originally from Westlake, Ohio, which is a suburb just outside of Cleveland. So Abby and I are representing Ohio this evening. I did my undergraduate work at the College of Worcester in political science, and I did a minor in music. I graduated in 2015, and then between Worcester and Vanderbilt, I did 3 years as an admissions officer at Kenyon College, which is another small liberal arts school just north of Columbus. So spent a fair amount of my time growing up in the state of Ohio. This summer, I'm working in the Office of Undergraduate Admissions, assisting with information session presentations, programming efforts, things of the sort. I also work during the year with Vanderbilt's Career Center, and then this fall, I'll be starting a new position with the Owen Graduate School of Management with their Masters of Science in Finance program. So a couple of things that I'd love to bring up. I know it's already been mentioned, the wealth of wisdom that Kathleen Rawl and Jeff Henley bring. I would certainly echo that. The post that Peabody Career Services offers that they post on the LinkedIn page, you'll connect with them, orientation, anything you can do to get connected with them in that office. I can't speak any more highly about them and what they bring to the table. Certainly look to take advantage of that. I would also really encourage you all to take advantage of your peer career mentor. And so this is someone that's a current student that you'll be given a peer career mentor that you'll meet with a few times throughout the course of the year, your first year. And mine was particularly helpful. I really enjoyed getting to meet with him. Not only did he offer insight, and we talked about Vanderbilt and academics and things like that, but also we got to talk more broadly about kind of Nashville and life outside of school. And so that kind of balance, to be able to have those types of conversations was really incredible for me, and something that definitely helped ease my transition back into being a student and with Vanderbilt as well. I'd say also certainly things to do right away, and kind of certainly over the course of your first year as well, is look to really try to cultivate relationships with your professors. I think this is something that will come along as you take your first semester of courses and into your second semester as well. I'd say the times you're able to take advantage of cultivating the relationships, I think, can really pay dividends down the road. I have a close friend and classmate of mine where we are working with a couple of our professors to help get one of our term papers from this past semester. We wrote it on the rise of test optional policies in admissions. So we wrote our term paper on that, and we're trying to get that approved for a conference presentation next year. We're working closely with a couple professors on that. And so I think if you're able to cultivate those types of relationships, you can really use that to your advantage, not only professionally, but also personally as well. Things to stay on top of, I would definitely encourage you to go to all the lectures, programs, really take advantage of any opportunities that are offered not only by Peabody, but by Vanderbilt more broadly. Any types of programs that are offered, I think, are just incredible. Anchorlink.vanderbilt.edu, I will post that in the feed, but that's actually a website that you can check out all the different opportunities that are offered, not only for undergraduate students, but graduate students. Anybody, any student at Vanderbilt are able to take advantage of these programs. So I would definitely encourage you to check that out. Other sort of bit of practical advice, I would definitely encourage you to check out both NashvilleGuru.com and also NashvilleScene.com. And I will post both of those as well. And these are sites that kind of give you more information about Nashville more broadly to help you kind of break that Vanderbilt bubble. talking about what the type of music that's going on, arts, culture, the food and drink scene, talking a little bit more about, what are the best happy hours in town, things like that, different events going on, concerts, things of the sort. Definitely, these are websites that I've used over the course of the year to kind of help me take advantage more of Nashville, because that's something that I knew. One of the reasons why I picked Vanderbilt for graduate school was to take advantage of the city of Nashville and to see all that has to offer. And so those are definitely sites that I encourage you to look into. And then my other bit of practical advice is that Vanderbilt students actually get a free full digital subscription to both the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. And so you can access that on the library homepage. That was something that kind of blew my mind when I figured that out. I'm an avid reader of news, and so I would definitely encourage you to hit that up if you feel so inclined. And then since everyone's been sharing their favorite spots around town, I will say one of my favorite restaurants, if you are into barbecue, is probably Martin's Barbecue. Definitely check that out. And then the best trivia spot in town is absolutely 100% the Germantown Pub in Germantown on Wednesday nights. Go see my guy Stephen Perry, and you'll have a good time. And so that I'm happy to answer further questions down the road or at the later part of the session, but happy to be here with you all. And thanks again.
That's great. Good. All good advice. Thanks so much, Jack. And Catherine, you're up. And you might be on mute. So
There I am. Hi, everybody. My name is Kate Murray. I am in the special education program. I am in the early childhood track. This is my second year in the program. I currently work as a graduate research assistant through the special education program. And I know that there are a number of assistantships that do show up on the job boards working for special education professors. There's a lot of research happening right now in the special education department, so I know that they're always looking for more people to help out. I personally got my research position through the program itself. So if you're in special education, keep an eye out for those that might be coming your way. One of the biggest tips that I had, actually, Jack mentioned, was about Nashville Guru. I am a huge fan. Happy hours events, all of that is in there. One of the things that I really enjoyed when I first moved to town was learning about all of the different neighborhoods in Nashville. It can be really easy to just stick around Midtown or stick around the Peabody campus. So one of the things that I did when I moved into town was I got a list of the 15 best coffee shops in the city, and I just started ticking them off one by one. And I was able to find, a great coffee shop to go and study, and then another great coffee shop to go and hang out with some friends. And my two current favorites right now are the Frothy Monkey coffee shop in the Nations. They've got great big tables, awesome food. And the Post East over on the east side of Nashville. They've got amazing gluten-free cinnamon rolls. Absolutely delicious. Two of the on-campus things that I highly recommend that everybody check out when you get to campus. The first being the rec center. I have found that the rec center is super easy to access. There's tons of classes, yoga, kickboxing, pretty much anything that you're looking for. It can be a great way to sort of relieve some of that grad school stress. So I highly recommend you check out the rec center. Their fitness schedule is posted online. And the other thing that I highly recommend everybody look at is the Office of Student Health and Wellbeing. It is a great resource that we have access to here at Vanderbilt to just sort of provide additional support if you might be struggling with stress. The Student Health and Wellbeing office has a drop-in yoga space, which is really cool. And they have frequent yoga classes as well as meditation opportunities. So those are just a few things that I highly recommend you guys check out. And I'm happy to be here with you guys and answer any other questions.
Thanks so much, Catherine. And our special guest, Axa, I'm not going to attempt your last name, so you can introduce yourself and say where you're from, a program you've been in, and any advice you want to share. And AXA is going to represent our international population.
Thank you so very much.
Yeah.
My name is Aksa Khalid. I'm a Fulbright student from Pakistan, and I just graduated from Learning Diversity and Urban Studies program. and I'm from Lahore in Pakistan. So overall, it's been a great year. One of the things I cannot stress enough is the fact that know that you're already great. That's why you made it this far. And this is just the beginning of all things that are going to happen in the future. So don't doubt yourself, but also have the humility and grace to be challenged by people around you, or just be challenged by yourself and be ready to evolve in the process. Um, Another piece of advice is not to worry too much about like getting all of those A's. If you're really enjoying the course, if you're in conversation with the professor and the students in the class, it's an easy A. You need to enjoy the process of it as well. Um, and then, as I think Jack said, invest in relationships with the professors. So while I was here, because I knew I was only in the US for 1 year, I did multiple things. So I worked at Craft Middle School. I worked with Eton Elementary. I worked as a graduate student worker for the Department of Teaching and Learning. I was part of certain research groups as well. I interned at the Department of Equity and Diversity at MNPS. And all of these opportunities I was able to get by talking to my professors that this is what I'm interested in. Now, where do I go and who do I talk to? So my professors were the ones who were, so I was somewhat clear in what I needed or what I wanted. But talking to my professors really helped me give direction on what are the next steps on getting what you want. The first interaction I had at my orientation was with the dean from PUBGE.
From Sharon
Yeah,
Shields.
from Sharon
Yeah.
Shields. And the first thing she said was that this is a place of great opportunities. Just come forward and say what you want, and everyone will be here to assist you and facilitate that journey for you. And that is very, very true. So just be open to what you want and voice it out, and hopefully you'll be there. In terms of activities, what because I was married, so after I was done, I didn't look for any coffee shops. I used to go home. But a lot of things that I liked doing around Nashville was keeping an eye on what's happening at the Centennial Park next to the Parthenon. So there are usually a lot of summer and spring festivals that are held over there. I love fishing, so we used to go to Percy Priest Lake, and there's tons of activities, water-related activities that you can do around there. Then there usually is something happening at the downtown's farmer market. One thing that you cannot absolutely miss if you're in Nashville is the Tennessee State Museum. It's really, really well done. Um, yeah, I think that's it.
Those are really good suggestions too. As you could probably tell just from hearing from a few of our current and recent grads, there is a lot to do. I would add one more thing and then we're going to open it up to questions. You'll be able to type your question into the chat and then our panelists will be able to unmute themselves to answer if they feel qualified to answer the question. But only other thing I would add is there's a very sort of like unofficial, official person here at Vanderbilt who puts out a weekly email. His name is Randall Tarkington. And Randall Tarkington takes it upon himself to, on a weekly basis, usually Thursdays, he sends out this very comprehensive email about what's happening in Nashville, in and around that weekend, and then like sort of what's coming up. But you have to request, I can't request for you, you have to request after you have your Vanderbilt.edu email, through that email, you have to be request to put on his listserv. And he usually puts you on it right away. So he put his email into the chat. And so you can, his first name is Randall, Randall. And you can just say, hey, I heard about your great email. Can you add me to the listserv? That would be great. So yeah, so that would be my kind of contribution because everything that everybody talked about, going to the Frisk to see the Frida Kahlo, you know, I found out about that through the Randall Tarkington email. some other things that are going on. The farmer's market was another thing. He always highlights a restaurant that he's been to. I've tried to follow his recommendations here and there. So that's just my little tidbit. So in the meantime, please, our attendees, please ask your questions in the chat, and we will be answering your questions. And I'm sure you must have many. Although all the panelists, thank you guys so much for giving such a great background and then advice. Okay, so we have from, I can't see who this is, D. I think there were 2 questions. I already got an email from my professor with the class syllabus, and coming from undergrad, where all the textbooks listed were not necessarily used in the course. Is grad school similar, or should I get all 4 of the textbooks now if they're in the syllabus? Good question. Let's answer that one first, and then we'll go to number 2. Should they get all of the textbooks listed in the syllabus?
I'd say maybe one thing to look into is, are those books offered by the library at Vanderbilt? And so if you don't want to necessarily purchase them, sometimes I've taken advantage of the library and checking them out. And so it's a little bit less of a financial, issue there if that's what you're thinking about, maybe from that angle.
Anybody else want to weigh in on?
Also, if this is Lori June, if you don't see any books listed, that just means that it's going to be heavy articles, which are all electronically provided, especially since Vanderbilt has such a vast network of resources. And so what happens is you're emailed the syllabi and there are links, and you're able to just electronically download those. So don't freak out if you go to Brightspace and it connects you to the Barnes & Noble and it says there are no books for this course. That just means that the professor has been very aware of not only
What's Brightspace, Lori June?
It's the student. That's a good question. Brightspace it's called Yes, YES, and that's your student portal. And then Brightspace is like the board for you to communicate, for your professor to communicate with you with assignments, any additional information for the course, any changes to the syllabi. Also, some professors use it to submit work such as weekly discussion posts or reflections. It just varies with the professor. So some professors choose not to use Brightspace. That's probably something to bring forth in your first class. Ask if that's their preferred use, or they tell you if they use Box or if they use Dropbox, or if they prefer email. That should all be highlighted in your syllabus. Anywho. But yeah, Vanderbilt is very environmentally friendly, very conscientious of resources here. So don't freak out if you don't find books to buy. That's usually a good thing. And as a side note also, I guess there's I don't know if it's unspoken or if it's a hard, strict rule, but per class, they try to keep your book fees or whatever to 100 or below. So in a lot of my courses, I never spent over $100 or $120 for my course readings. That's just for me. But
that might be specific to your program. I'm not 100% sure about that, but
yeah, maybe for yeah.
And the second part of the question, that they've heard there's a lot of reading in grad school that you're not really expected to read at all, but to use your discretion, skim, do your best. How accurate is that?
I think in my experience, it depends. We're kind of giving a lot of it depends answers, but it does depend on the course. I had one course that was a theories-based course in the fall where we were reading almost an entire book per week. And so that was one where the professor very much understood that if we needed to skim a little bit, that was cool. So I think it depends on the course and on the professor, but I have really, really enjoyed all of the textbooks and other articles and things that I've been assigned to read. So I usually try to read them as fully as I can because I think that they're genuinely really valuable. And that's a way, that's a thing that I think has differed from undergrad for me was I felt like a lot of the readings in undergrad were maybe not as valuable or pertinent to my career. And I think in grad school, those readings have been really valuable and really useful. So I would recommend trying to read it as thoroughly as you can, but obviously time management is so huge. So don't burn yourself out trying to read every single word on every page if it's going to stress you out like that. I think you'll find a rhythm as you go along, and you'll find something that works out really well for you.
And I think Nicole's question is kind of a good piggyback to that. How many hours per week or per course would you recommend setting aside to study for coursework? So if you're taking 3 classes on average, how many hours are you spending in the week to study?
So for LDUS, we were taking between 12 to 13 credits per semester. And the reason with that is because we are a 10-month program instead of a 2-year program. How much would you say we studied, Maxa? Because aside from studying, we also had internship hours, which in the fall varied from 6 to 10, and that cuts into study time. And then I also, this kind of connects to another question from Rihanna Smith about particular number of hours you suggest to work. So like as a full-time student, when you're enrolled, you're only allowed to work 29 and a half hours. That's how much.
Rena's shaking her head no.
I know, what?
So the dean of the Peabody College has a limit of 20 hours.
20.
For campus, any combination of campus-based work is 20 hours. Anything beyond that, you have to get permission for, but the university has a limit of 29. Now, if you're working off campus, there's really no restriction that we can put on that. But for as far as campus, Dean Bembo really has been here long enough, over 20 years, to know what the right balance is for students, and she says it's 20.
Okay, so 20 hours of work max for full-time students. We got that question answered.
For campus-based work, yes.
Yep. As far as studying, I mean, I enjoyed my studies. That was my fun. So I enjoy reading. I enjoy writing. My social time typically was like on campus when Pop GE would host certain events, so that would be breaks or whatnot. I think our answer, my answer and Axe's answer just is a little bit different because we are 10-month programs, so it's accelerated and we were really on our toes. So if we weren't at our internship, if we weren't doing on-campus like work in terms of assistantships or research, I was studying. So.
I'm Aksa. So I slightly had a different experience, but then again, it depends on how much time. I don't know. I used to spend like 2 or 3 hours per day to complete my assignments. And I was usually done. And maybe because I can't study for too long and I have to take breaks and then I get back to my work. So yeah, I'd say 2 to 3 hours for me was okay.
Good question. Does anybody else want to weigh in on that from a different program?
I'll speak for HDC. I think if you include the time that you're in classes as well, so like time that you're studying, doing assignments, and in class, most of us probably spent close to 35 to 40 hours a week total between all of those things. So it is fairly like a full-time job, which is why there are restrictions on how many hours you can work, because those are really wise restrictions. I did have to get special approval where I overlapped jobs for about a month and was working almost 30 hours a week. And that was really, really hard to do. So I would definitely, even if you're working off campus, would really try and keep to that 20 hours a week. of working time. But I think, again, it will vary per course and it will vary per semester. I would say my spring semester was probably a lot lighter than my fall, because I was taking 12 hours in the fall and then 9 in the spring. So HGC varies a little bit semester to semester because of licensure requirements, whether you take 9 or 12 credit hours. So it will look a little bit different each time and across programs, of course. But that would be my 2 cents on that.
There's a general thinking in higher education. If you're thinking about a Carnegie credit hour, there's generally a rule of thumb, and this varies from institution to institution, but if just to get to it, and then we can move on to another question, is for every semester hour that you spend in the classroom, there's an expectation you spend 2 to 3 hours per credit. So if you're in class for if you're in a 9 semester credit program, or 9 semester credits for your semester, that means you're in 9 credit hours in the classroom. That means you're spending about 18 to 27 hours outside of the classroom, supposedly, which speaks to the point that you just made, that that Abby just made about, it feels like a full-time job, because when you add in your hours that you're in the classroom and outside studying, that alone in and of itself is like a full-time job. So that might be a good rule of thumb for you to follow if you're not quite sure. But I think you'll fall into the right pattern. You'll have to feel it out and see what's right for you. What other questions do we have? Great discussion about books and studying and.
So the question about renting versus buying books and checking out books from the library. So I can touch a little bit about that. I think the way that I've kind of operated on this is, if this is a book that I know I'm going to like reference at some point, that I feel like I'm going to reference in my career, 10, 20 years down the road, then I'm definitely buying it. Otherwise, I'm going to try to either rent it or check it out from the library. And so, like, for example, I'm going to be taking an education law class this fall, which is, case law about things like Title IX and whatnot. And I very much anticipate, referencing that at some point in my future career. And so that is definitely a book that I'm going to be buying. And then, other books about enrollment management and things of the sort, I'm, purchasing as well. But other than that, I kind of, I try to either check books out from the library. I do that a lot if I can, or rent them. But yeah, I kind of operate under the premise of, if this is a book that I know I'm going to use for a long time, then I would look to buy it.
That's good. Sorry, I have to laugh at the parking question a little bit. So anybody want to take that one up? Because everybody's a commuter here. There's no such thing as graduate student housing at Vanderbilt yet, although it's coming, but not in the time that you'll be here, unfortunately. So anybody want to take that on about parking?
I can talk about parking. This is Kate. I want to just let you know right off the bat that parking is at a premium on the Vanderbilt campus, no matter where you go. And you will need a parking pass to park in the Peabody lots. And I think last year was about $400 for the year for the parking permit, which allowed me to park in all of the lots right around the Peabody campus. So that's just sort of a price tag that you need to be aware of. There is some off-campus parking, but it is really hard to get into during peak hours. So unless you're willing to get there really early in the day, or you're coming during off hours, it can be a little tricky. Additionally, I think Abby was mentioning earlier about the bus system and being able to use the Vanderbilt ID card to commute. That is a great resource. So if you are able to park perhaps away from campus in an area of Nashville that doesn't charge you, then you can commute into campus fairly easily.
And more on the parking, so that breaks down to about $40 a month, and you're allowed to park in Zone 1 permit lots. Then I believe at some point, like at 6 in the evening, you're allowed, it's like free parking all throughout campus. And they do it a little bit different here in Vanderbilt. You don't get stickers or anything. You actually have to register your license plate. So it's not like you can borrow someone else's pass. It's all based on your plate numbers. And yeah, the community service officers do their rounds. So
They do.
not everyone gets lucky.
Mm-hmm. I think, well, the other thing, let me just stay on that one question to answer the last one, and then we'll go back to Alexander's question. So yes, it's free after, I think, a certain time in the evening, but after, looking at Brian, 2 in the afternoon, I think it's something like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, then your zone 1 pass can work in zone 2 or 3. So the question about your assistantship, I would probably make it so that your hours are from 2 to 5 or whatever it is, that you would be able to do that. Or you can ask parking services what might be the best way to do that for you. They may tell you to go to zone 2 and walk, in either direction. I have no idea, but they may give you a map and tell you, you can only get one zone, and it actually might be that zone 2 might be the best one for you. But I really don't know. So either try to get zone 1 and then, or I guess it depends on what your class schedule is too, because there are a lot of courses that have evening classes. So maybe it's actually that you want to park in zone 3, a parking pass for zone 3, but zone 1 will be available to you after that 2 or 3 o'clock time frame, which parking services can clarify. Now, Alexander asked a question.
I would note about the parking. We've kind of touched on this. Vanderbilt's campus is really not that big. We're just a few hundred acres. And what I tend to do is park and walk. It takes at most 15 minutes or so to walk from one corner of the campus. And I find it's easiest just to park and walk around. This is Brian. I'm running the conference here for everybody.
Thanks, Brian.
Oh, and also the rec center does have a lot that you don't need a permit. So it's free parking. It's on the corner of like 25th or 26th. And Jesse Neely, you don't need a parking permit for that area.
Now, Alexander asked, do you engage with undergrads a lot, and are you welcome to attend undergrad-centered social events?
I will say something specific with my program, with higher education administration. A lot of my classmates, as a part of their assistantships, are directly engaging with undergrads, and so that's one thing that I know. Those students, and we all like to take advantage of kind of naturally with our jobs. But I think outside of that, any activities or lectures or performances, social events, things like that are at Vanderbilt's campus are open to all students. And so, while it might seem like the other kind of thing that's, you'll realize is that Peabody sometimes kind of seems like its own island away from main campus and all the things that are happening on main campus. And so it can feel a little bit detached at times, but I would definitely encourage you all to, wander over the main campus and check out those events, because they are open, to all students at Vanderbilt and not necessarily just undergrads. And so if you feel so inclined, definitely, wander over there and see what's going on for any different event.
And I'll tack onto that kind of like social events. So sporting events, if you're interested in going to football and basketball games, there should be somebody at orientation that will be selling the graduate student packs of tickets for football and basketball games. I think they were like $25 last year or something like that. So that is a way to get those if you're interested in sporting events.
And it's $25 for the entire season, not per game.
So. Is that per sport?
Per sport, yeah. So 25 for football and then 25 for basketball. I believe for basketball, it's only for men, not for women's.
Okay. Teresa is asking a good question. She's returning to school after 17 years after getting her BA, wondering if anybody has advice for someone returning to school after so long. She's also going to be commuting from about an hour away, and wants to be part of the Vanderbilt community, but also looking for time for that work-life balance. So but are there any events not to miss? Orientation's one of them. Don't miss that. I can make that plug again. But
there's the Peabody wine and tea tasting, which would be nice to take your significant other. Not sure if children are. No. But yeah,
Not unless your children are drinking. But.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's in the spring the Peabody Gala, which also would be nice to bring your significant other. Axa brought her husband. That was fun.
So this is Kate. I actually came back to Peabody after spending about 8 years out in the field as a teacher. So one of the biggest things that I'll say for anybody who is coming back to school would be give yourself a little bit of grace as you sort of get back into this routine. It can be pretty tricky getting that school mindset back in. It's very different being in school and having to run around campus, to go to an assistantship or go to a research position, and then run to class, and then you might have 2 or 3 hours to study. And that was a very big shift coming from working at a 9-to-5 type job. So just give yourself a little bit of grace. You'll settle in, and the campus here is so welcoming, and there are so many resources available. And you're going to do great.
Thanks for that encouragement, Kate. I think we're on the student health insurance question.
I was going to add also.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Community or social events. Something that's really cool that I'm glad that I've been participating in is there's often a lot of book signings here at Vanderbilt, and a lot of visitors who like to do special topic talks or whatnot. And one of our favorite ones, which is also a young adult literature, The Hate You Give. Angie Thomas was here, which we had tons of middle schoolers and high schoolers and other reading book clubs coming in and bringing in their kids from a variety of schools. So just being very aware of the literature and the special guests that Vanderbilt's bringing in, which is very family oriented and welcoming to your children as well.
Yeah, we had Stacey Abrams here this year. We had Bush, George Bush.
Yeah,
George Bush. Well, which one?
We had Patrice Cullors.
Patrice Cullors.
Kwame Alexander.
Kwame Alexander. We had Ta-Nehisi Coates. We had
Anthony Ray.
Yeah.
Abby and Spa. The soccer player, Abby.
Oh yeah.
Somebody help me.
From the woman.
Abby Wambach.
Thank you. Abby Wambach. It's like a similar last name. There's another big one I can't remember. And then we had the diversity. There's also a diversity lecture series that's sponsored by the Peabody Dean, by Dean Bembo. And we had 2 really good speakers this last semester. And
we also had one of the panelists for Shark Tank, I think Damon Jones.
Oh, that's right.
Was also here. So yeah.
Yeah, so those are things to look for. I mean, these things are posted all around campus. They're announced in all of the newsletters and everything like that. And again, it's going to be one of those things that are what speaks to you or what you're interested in. Some of the things you have to put in a lottery for, the George Bush one. You had to put in for a lottery to get a ticket for that. So does anybody want to talk about on the student health insurance, how you've gone about finding doctors or urgent care? Well, you don't have to share that, but.
I was at the university insurance. So. Yeah, and I just used to go to the student health center.
Which is right across the street.
Which is right across the street, yeah. And so they usually do a basic checkup, or if there's some basic lab testing that needs to be done. But then for me, I needed some special kind of something that wasn't going to be handled by a basic what do you call it? The first person.
Primary care doctor.
Primary care.
Oh, you needed a referral.
Yeah, I needed a referral. So yeah, a lot of times I had to go to the Vanderbilt Women Health Center. That is not too far from here as well. But yeah, it's really convenient. And then you have a My Health portal, which is very, very effective in communications. You can talk to your doctor. You can see all of your lab results right there. You can book your appointments from the My Health portal. So yeah, that's yeah.
And also I'm also under the student health insurance. With the My Health portal, you can also request your prescription, which you can get it all taken care of, and then your primary care physician will then ask you your preference of pharmacy, so that gets sent there right away as well within the day. Um, and you can also schedule appointments a day of. So I actually ran the National Half Marathon and I injured my knee during that time. So not only was I able to see my primary care, I also physician, I also saw a sports medicine doctor. I was able to get my MRIs all within a mile radius here of Peabody campus. Got my x-rays, and then I was then referred to physical therapy, which is also or was also included in my student health insurance. So all in all, for the past like 2 months with the care of the injury and whatnot, I think I only paid $21 for like part of the x-ray. So yeah, that's my experience with student health insurance and the doctors and physicians here. And also for urgent care, when the student health center is closed, there are certain like Walgreens that you can use your student health insurance at, and there's a list on the website. So if it's like not during business hours here, you can be referred to another location that may be closer to you, to your home as well.
So we have an agreement with Walgreens. Do you know if you can go to the Vanderbilt urgent care centers also, the document boxes?
Yeah.
And I'll know, this is Brian again. If you guys don't know, Vanderbilt has a major medical research center here. There's a medical school at the university, and we're the main trauma center for the Southeast. So in terms of medical research, we're really high end, and I don't know what the census is of faculty, but there are several thousand doctors on staff here doing all sorts of research, which you can participate in. I know, Kate, I don't know if you've had any contact with Bill Wilkerson or anything like that, but special ed and the med school do a lot of crossover on research and treatment.
These are all really, really good questions, and I hope you get a sense of the supportive community, the open arms that you're going to be coming into. There are endless questions, we know. I am sure that if you want to send us an email, which again, the email address is on the slide deck, if you have any questions for anybody in particular who's been on the panel, that you can email us at peabody.admissions and we will get it to the right people, or we can obviously answer questions and get back to you as quickly as possible. But I want to take an opportunity now to thank all of our panelists and our special guest as well, who was just sort of kind of roped into doing this. I want to thank Brian for once again assisting us with the technology part of our work here today, and always contributing some very good nuggets of information as well, because he's been here for 20 years and knows everything, or almost everything. And I want to thank all of you guys who are on our chat today. It's been a great discussion. Thank you all so much. We hope you have a wonderful evening. And again, thank you to our panelists. Have a great night.